Hi, I'm Prasad Thamineni, founder and CEO of Agentman. Today I'm excited to share with you how we are democratizing the way agents are built and deployed. We are pioneering the first agent store for agents. A year from now, you can imagine there will be millions of agents deployed across different businesses of different sizes and use cases. We want to be that central marketplace where people can discover, build, and sell agents that work seamlessly with over 7,000 different applications. Before we get started, let me give you some background on why we built Agentman. About 2 years ago, at Atlassian, the same company that makes Jira, I built one of the first co-pilots. Later on at Rappi, Latin America's largest delivery company, Moshe, my co-founder, and I built customer agents at scale. That's when I come to understand that building agents using traditional programming languages like Python or React wasn't efficient, especially as workflows became more complex and diverse. We realized that language models are more suitable for building agents using a no-code approach. This led us to inventing a no-code agent building language, which became the foundation for Agentman. We call that language Chain of Agents. Since June of last year, we have been perfecting how to build these agents while working with businesses of all kinds. In Jan of this year, we publicly launched the product for everybody. Today, Agentman offers two main paths to agents. Path number one, you can get one of our pre-built agents, use it as is, and customize it to deploy all within minutes. Path number two, you can use our no-code agent builder, a platform to quickly build, test, and deploy agents for your own custom workflows. In this presentation, I'll show you a live demo of an agent in the wild. We will build an agent together, test it, connect it to your backend, and lastly, learn how to deploy these agents. So let's get started with a live demo of an agent. Now let me show you a demo of an agent in action. Here's a demo shopping store called skintastic.shop. While agents can appear anywhere on a page, you will commonly see them in the bottom right corner like this one here called Ask Agentman. What makes this different from a typical chatbot is its flexibility. Okay? Instead of following a rigid menu-like tree structure, you can ask multiple questions anytime. So let's start with a two-part question called what is the order status on 1005 and can you find me moisturizers? Notice how this agent can handle two completely different queries simultaneously. Right? You can go and check the order status and also give you product recommendations. And these are two different tasks. So let's start with what we see here. Right? So it's saying, hey, in order for me to go and check on the order status, can you please provide me the email address that goes with it? And then I will go find moisturizers as needed. Okay. So here is demo at agentman.ai is the email address associated with this order. And how do I know this? This is the administrative side of the store where we have all the orders. And here we have 1005. Which shows you three different products and the associated email address with it. Okay, so we go back to our agent. The agent is showing us that this is the order status. February 9 to 2025 was the order placed, that was today. And here are all the details, the same stuff that we saw in the admin section. And it's gone and looked at the product catalog and surfaced three moisturizers. Oh, in fact, actually four we have, or five in this case, 5 moisturizers. So now let me ask it a more complicated question. I'll say, can you recommend me one? I am getting older. Now, this is something a bot would not understand, but older is something a language model can understand. What it means is that it's going to look for characteristics within the moisturizers that help with anti-wrinkle. Right? So it's come back and recommended me Neutrogena age-fighting anti-wrinkle retinol moisturizer for men. and explaining how it helps with wrinkles. So I'm going to say, that's great. How do I use it? Now, obviously this is an expensive moisturizer, so I would like to know how do I use it. So it's going to go and retrieve product information from this particular product, which is recommended from the store. This is the store product details, where it's mentioned how to use it. It uses this information and comes back and explains it to me how it's to be used. So it says, apply evenly to your face and neck 15 minutes before sun exposure, and then goes on to explain the effects of SPF components and why it's useful. I'm going to ask a follow-up. I'm going to say, why the neck? I never apply moisturizer there. Now this is something that is not on the website. This is where language models excel because they have been trained on the worldly knowledge. So it's now tapping into that knowledge and saying, hey, look, I'm going to look at the reason why we have moisturizer on the neck is because the skin is delicate there, etc., etc. So what the agent is doing is tapping into the local knowledge of the store when it's available, and when it is not, if they answer a particular question related to why the neck, it looks up its global knowledge to answer that question. Let me explain how Agentman works under the hood. At its core, Agentman is an operating system that can reason, remember, and orchestrate conversations while performing actions. The reasoning and orchestration engine is used for building conversational agents, process agents, and guardian agents. Conversational agents are like the ones that we looked at, the Shopify agent we just saw. Process agents will take an input, perform a series of generative actions, understanding, reasoning, etc., and perform tasks. Think of it like an input-output machine. And the last one is guardian agents, which we don't yet have, but we're planning to launch soon, will proactively monitor for events and take action when needed. Okay. Now, the engine itself has 5 different steps. Okay. First one is plan. The agent determines what actions to take based on user input. It evaluates the current context and decides what else it needs. If it needs additional data, it will ask for the additional data from connected systems. And when it has all the information, it will act on it. The action could be calling another API or returning a response to the user, all the while maintaining the context for continuous kind of conversation. Now let's go a little deeper and look at the sequence of actions. So on the left side, you have the user, and on the right side, we have the tools. So let's follow through that sequence and keep our Shopify agent conversation in mind. The user sends their query to the agent asking for order status. The agent then formats this query with the proper prompt and context and sends it to the language model. Now, when we enter what we call as a reasoning loop, so the language model goes to all the context and looks at what else do I need? And it says, hey, I need to get the order details. And I have this tool called fetch order status that will help me get those order details. So it supplies that information saying, this is the tool call I need to data from, and here is the context for the tool call, and passes it back to the Agentman agent here, as you can see. Now Agentman agent then calls the tool, get fetch order status, gets the results. And at this point, when it has the results, this is still raw API response, which is then sent back to the language model. The language model then formats into a neat little response because it has all the information needed to respond to that question and returns it back. As you can see, the Agentman is basically orchestrating interactions between the user and the language model and the tools while maintaining the entire context of the conversation and supplying it to the LLM as needed. It also does all the tool calling so that it knows when to call a particular tool and how to call it and such. Let me show you how Agentman's agents are structured using what we call the chain of agents language. Think of it as a blueprint that brings together all the components needed for an agent to function effectively. Every agent in Agentman has 4 key components: tasks, tools, memory, we also call it variables, and task flow. Okay? A task, think of it as Order status is a task. Searching for products is a task. Doing returns is a task. And these tasks are accomplished during a series of steps. And these steps require information by connecting a backend system. And the way you get to that information is using a tool call. While performing a task, the agent stores this information that it needs, such as order ID, order details, etc., in what are called memory or variables that are referenced by multiple tasks across multiple conversations, or I would say multiple back and forth between the user and the agent. Now let's look at what that looks like. So a task is given a task name, in this case get product details, and if the user asks questions about a specific product, call fetch product details with the argument product name is a step within that. The next step says if the user requests additional information such as reviews, benefits, etc., use fetch product meta fields. And in our Shopify agent, we saw that when we ask the question how to use the product, it actually follows the second one, which is says goes and gets how to use instructions by calling fetch product meta fields. Memory variables. So memory variables, as we have seen, or you have a prefix called dollar in the variable name, and it's very useful to store information in memory variables because you can now reference these values across multiple tasks. And that way the language model and the agents are able to look up this information. And they could be just values, a single like a product name, or it could be a collection of values. The third thing that you will notice is that we introduce what is called task flow. So a task in our world could be a series of instructions, and there could be many tasks. So at times you may want to decompose a larger complicated problem into multiple tasks and say, if you want to perform this, go to a different task. And here's an example. We say welcome. There are 3 different options that the agents can solve for you. And depending on the option the user selects, it goes to a different task. Okay? And it's same syntax where you say dollar, task, and the task name. Lastly, just to reiterate, calling tools, we tightly specify what tool to call in the instruction itself, and that makes the tool calling very deterministic. So you can have any number of tools, and the tool names could be similar in nature, but this creates deterministic results. Okay, in this section, we're going to actually build an agent. And why don't you join with me and let's build an agent together. So if you go to agentman.ai, you'll be able to quickly register for a new account, and it's free at this point. So you go ahead and register. It should take no more than a minute. You can pause the recording. So I start with a simple login here because I've already registered. Now I'm in, and this is our agent builder. And let's do a quick tour before we go build an agent. Here you can see here this area is called the Doogent area. Doogent is our own agent copilot that helps you build agents very quickly. And at the bottom are a number of templates to get you started, to give you an inspiration on how to build things. There's a Shopify collection of agents, there's Employee Travel Concierge, DoorDash Support, DMV Assistant, and so on and so forth. As you can see, it spans the spectrum. Today we're going to build a Shopify order support agent. As you can see here, says we need to use Doogent to help us build it. We'll ask Doogent to build a Shopify agent that helps customers with order details, right? So say look up order details or solve order issues. And along with it, we also populated additional instructions, which are, think of it as on top of the high level goal, what are the additional things this particular agent should do, right? And we also said, we want you to use 2 tools called fetch order details and get current date type. Now these are optional. You don't have to specify tool names. We chose to give tool names because you will see in following down in our demo, we're going to replace these tools with actual tools that connect to the API. When Doogent creates an agent, it uses its tool names to create what are called synthetic tools, tools that will behave like the actual tools but create dummy data for you. Okay? So while that is happening, we're going to go ahead and generate the actual agent name. Now, if you're tired of specifying agent names like I do when you're demos, I actually I use this particular feature to be able to create a nice little agent name. Okay, so it takes about 30 to 40 seconds depending on the complexity of the agent. So while that is happening, I'm going to pause this video and come back. Okay, we're back. The agent is ready, and now it's ready for testing. Okay, let's go ahead and test this agent. So this is called agent tester. I can just start by saying quickly hello because I don't know how it's going to respond. So it's going to come back and say, hey, do you want any help? Would you like or look up order details or solve order issues? Remember, we said we want this agent to perform 2 tasks. These are the high-level task names. Okay, I say I want to look up order details for, oh, by the way, I don't know what the order ID is. And we don't have any real data, so we can make up data here. I'm going to say for order 5,000. So at this point, the agent is running in what is called a synthetic mode, where any data you provide is assumed it is correct and is passed on to the synthetic tool called fetch order status, where it makes up the order details and response. So as you can see here, it's made up Jane Smith, email, gadget, thingamig, and so on. So how do I know it that it's actually calling a synthetic tool? We can click on this tool calls tab, and it shows you which tool the language model asked to make. So it's saying the language model said, I not answer this question. I need to actually call this tool, pass an argument called order ID to it. Now the agent OS got these instructions and then made the tool call, in this case to a synthetic tool call, which generated this data in this JSON format. And this then was sent to the language model. The language model created a nice little input and sent it back, which was then presented to the user. So as you can see, you can map this into a sequence diagram where we were able to transition between different parts of the agent OS as well as language model and tools. Okay, now let's go look at what got generated. So this is our agent editor. There are 3 parts to it. Now we have the toolbar at the top where you can save the agent as you're working through it. You can actually click and share it, this agent, with anybody at any time. It generates a very easy to use link that you can send to anybody to get feedback, such as this, right? So you can just copy this link and send it to somebody just like you would do with a YouTube video. And the last tab is deploy. And then you can load this agent so you can share it with somebody and send this agent to them and they can import it to start building on it. The last one is called Doogent, and you will see Doogent is something that we'll use heavily to continue to improve our agent. Within the agent itself, there are 4 different sections, and knowledge is yet to be implemented, but let's look at the first 4. Under the overview, we have the agent name, the high-level goal. So every agent needs to have a high-level goal so that it stays within that goal's definition. And these are the additional instructions that we had specified earlier. We also introduce automatic guardrails and tone so that the agent sticks within that particular set of instructions. So here it says the agent should strictly follow the task flow, prompt users for necessary information, and use tools to fetch data. It should not make any assumptions or perform actions outside of this defined scope. At any point you ask any question that is not related to the task, it will say, sorry, I do not know. Okay? And the tone specifies how professional, clear, and supportive the conversation should be. Now let's look at our tasks. As we talked about in the past, we think of agents as a series of tasks. In this case, we have 3 different tasks. The first one is a welcome task, which says, hello, how are you? How can I help you? Here are the 2 things that I can do for you. In this case, look up order details or solve order issues. And depending on the user's choice, it can say, go to particular task, look up order details, or solve order issues. So this is our orchestration across tasks. So now let's look up order details. In here are a series of steps or instructions on how to look up order details. It says if the user has not provided an order ID, prompt the user for order ID and store it in this memory variable called order ID. And once you have that information, you call this tool fetch order details with the order ID retrieve order details. And when you're done, you can go back to the welcome task and ask solve additional problems. And the same thing goes with the other one here. It's called solve order issues here, and it does the same fetch order details and so on and tries to solve it. Okay. So now let's look at the other tabs. The memory tab shows the list of all the variables. The tools tab shows you the two tools that we asked it to generate or use. One is fetch order details, is get current date time. And both are synthetic in the sense that they're not really connected to any backend. They are dynamically or generated by the agent operating system to facilitate quick testing of your agents. So what does a synthetic tool look like? It has a description and it has a behavior. And the behavior is given an input. This is the output it comes back with. So it is given an order ID. It responds with order ID, items that look like this. Now, you will see we will employ Doogent to continue to revise this in the next part of the demo. On the right side, you have Agent Tester, where you'll be able to test this agent anytime. As you are iterating and revising your agent, you want to continuously test. That is, you go back and forth, add instructions, remove instructions, and then be able to do it. And between such iteration, you want to always save. And when you save, you have to clear the agent so that resets it and starts over. Okay. And if you want to see what tools are being called, you can use the tool calls here. Okay, we're gonna now revise our tasks to improve them. We are also going to connect our tools to actual APIs. So we had seen how the lookup order details task uses what is called tool details by passing it an order ID. Let's add some verification to it. You can see here against the look order details, there's some improve with AI. This is how you activate Doogent. And the context says improve task lookup order details. I'm going to say, can you also accept email for verification? So what Doogent does, it takes this current task as context and my exceptions and revises this task for me in the format that Agentman's agents are built. So this way you don't have to learn this from scratch. You can use this to continuously iterate and learn it as you go. So what's happened here? It came back and said prompt the customer to provide ID or email for verification and store it in order ID or email. Now that's right. That's incorrect. I want both order ID and email. So not an order ID or email. I want to accept both order ID and email for verification. So I'm telling Doogent, look, you misunderstood me, set of instructions. I want you to revise them so that it both order ID and email and passes them as arguments to this tool. So the prompt user came back, said, prompt the customer their order ID and email for verification, store them here and call fetch order tools, etc. On clicking apply, it updates the task here. But as you can see, the fetch order details tool accepts two arguments. But we had seen in the past that the fetch order details synthetic tool only accepts one. So we have to revise this tool, and we're going to do it here, click it again and say, hey, I have already these context here, and I'm going to say revise this tool as described previously, right? Right, so it knows that it's going to go back and say, oh, look, I have fetch order details, it acts like this, and come back with a revised version of the synthetic tool, which I can is accept now. We have the new tool version. I'm going to save it, the tool here. I'm going to save and reset it and say, hello, what are the order details? Again, for a mock order ID called 5000. So at this point, because I said you have to prompt for email, I'll say, yeah, you can say hello at email me@you.com is the email address for verification. As you can see, it is a fake email address. And it's going to use that to call this tool and generate some mock data. And how do I know it? So I'm going to click on this tool call, and now it's passing both this email and order ID and coming back with the details. So this is how actually I've gone ahead and updated or revised my task as well as my tools within very quick order. So we're going to do one more thing. we're going to create a HTTP tool. HTTP tool is the real tool that we're going to create to replace fetch order details. So I'm going to copy these instructions which I had originally up. So I'm going to copy that and paste it here. And in here you can see it says, hey, create me a fetch order details HTTP tool. That is a get, use the get method, accepts order ID and email, and calls this particular Shopify API on the store, which is a fantastic store, by putting the token. Okay, so I'm going to press that in there. Now Doogent will use this information to create the HTTP tool call. HTTP tool calls are what we refer to as the real tool calls, which will then connect this agent to the real store. So it's generated it. I'm going to click apply, and now it is HTTP here, tools here. So I'm going to close this again, save. Now that I've saved this tool here, I'm going to clear the conversation and start over again and say, what is the order status on 1005? And 1005 is the same order that we had tested before in the Skintastic store, which is this. And the email address for that is agentman.ai. I'm going to use that here as well. It's going to ask me to prompt the email address. I'm going to provide the email address. And now it's going to connect to the store, retrieve all those details and present to me. So while it's doing that, let me verify. It says partially refunded, 87 body scrub and cleansing bar. The order has been fulfilled. So we can continue to use Doogent to improve our agent. We can create a new task, describe task and task for you, and the tools are needed. You can go ahead and create some HTTP tools as needed, and you replace, and you go through this process, and you can create sophisticated agents. So let me walk you through some of the agents we have in here. So you have ready to use agents. The one that you can see we built part of the agent for looking order status and such. We can actually build a very sophisticated agent here. So I'm going to go and clone this agent. That's what I would encourage you to do. And once you clone it, you can see it actually does get product details, checks order status, search products, measures customer satisfaction and such, and relies on a number of tools. You can see there are about almost 10 tools here, which do a variety of things. At any time, you don't need to have all HTTP tools or all synthetic tools. You can have a hybrid where as you're iterating and testing and improving, you can start with synthetic tools, improve them, improve your agent. And when you think everything is looking good, you can replace the synthetic tool with a HTTP tool. Okay, the last topic is sharing and deploying agents. And this is something that you must have. I already showed you a little bit. Here, once an agent is built, you can click share. And then you can actually share this particular link to anybody where they can test out your agent and get details. You can also deploy your agent into your own environment where you have a client that you can use one of our clients, or you can build your own client to talk to this agent. There are 3 ways we give you to deploy your agents in a client environment. The first one is within Shopify. In a Shopify store, you can use our chat client to deploy your agent. The second way you do it is using our web client, our web app client. It's freely available at this particular GitHub. You can download it. It's a JavaScript based web client and install it in your web browser or a web application. Either it's in the corner of your web page or right in the center. And you can customize it the way you need, the colors, etc., so that it becomes your particular chat client. The third option is you can build your own. Let's say you want to embed that into your mobile application. You would use this API, which accepts 4 different arguments. The first argument is agent token, the one that you got from deploy, as well as second one being the conversation ID, which is important, or the third in this case, where every time you start a new conversation, you would create a randomly generated conversation ID and pass that with every turn so that the conversation history is used across multiple turns. Lastly, user input is where the user supplies the question and that's sent, you get a response back in this format. And more of this, you can find documentation on our website. Let me wrap up by sharing what's coming next at Agentman. We'll be launching subscriptions and plans, a free tier for individual builders. It's currently free, there are no limits, but once we roll out these plans, you would have to pay for higher limits. The starting paid plan would be $99 a month for professional capabilities, as well as larger team plans as well. Additionally, we'll be providing advanced agent security beyond token-based authentication. We'll make it super easy to build HTTP tools, connect RAG as well, and built-in RAG. And lastly, automated agent testing facilities. We are on a mission to democratize agent building. A year from now, there'll be millions of agents deployed across businesses of all sizes. We want Agentman to be the platform where businesses find those agents, developers like you build those agents, and maybe even monetize them through our marketplace. Thank you. If you have any questions, please contact us at contact@agentman.ai. Happy building.